Hello, friends. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Today, I want to celebrate. I want to share and celebrate a huge step in my life today. So, one of my biggest goals has been to be a published author. I have wanted to write a book since I was a kid. I have many versions of books that I wrote as a kid sitting around and just stories that I used to write. And today, when I am actually recording this episode, is a huge step towards that and is actually book launch day of a book that I am a contributing author in. So, Peak Performance Mindset Tools for Leaders is out now. You can check it out on Amazon. And it was such an amazing opportunity and step towards becoming an author. Of course, my journey to authoring is just getting started because I have big goals and dreams for my own book. This is such an amazing opportunity to be part of this and to get my toe wet in the whole space of being an author. So this book is with 24 amazing authors, and these people are elite athletes and TED Talk speakers and business leaders, and they have done some amazing things, and they're sharing their stories and their tools to really help you reach your peak performance. And even just saying this, it still feels a little bit surreal. And to be honest, that imposter syndrome really creeped up. I have done so much work in this and building my confidence, and I help people with this. And yet when I was given this opportunity and I was able to see and learn about some of the other people who were being featured in this book, I had that moment where I went why me? Why me? Can I do this? What are people going to think when they see my name next to some of these people who, for example, rowed across the ocean in a rowboat? Yes, you're going to have to check it out to hear his story and learn about him. But I'm sitting here going, why me? And I had to flip that script into why not me? The opportunity is here. It's in my lap. How could I say no to this? And so I wanted to share a little bit of that with you. I wanted to share a little bit of how I got here and what I've learned along the way for this. So first, how I got here. And I'm going to come back to something that I've said before on the podcast is trusting myself. Saying yes, even when I'm scared, and jumping in and figuring it out. I'm going to say those are the things that got me here right now to be able to say that I'm officially a published author and that I'm featured in this book amongst some amazing, incredible humans. I trusted myself. I said yes, even when I was scared, and I jump in and I figure it out. And that is what has led me to all of these accomplishments. And it hasn't been easy, right? If you've listened to a previous episode, that doesn't mean everything falls into place. The last year has been so many ups and downs, and I've had so many downs, but so many ups in my business and growth and starting the podcast and this book and opportunities. And this was another one of those things where I just had to jump in and just do it and figure it out. And I do a lot of my business for my coaching and training company through organic marketing, through referrals, through networking. And so as a result, I put a lot of content out. And if you follow me, you probably know this. I have friends and family who would say, I just feel like I see you everywhere. They'd say, I see you all over. I always know what you're doing. I don't even need to ask. And I would have those moments where I'd feel almost a little embarrassed or feel a little guilty about that. Oh my gosh, I'm sharing too much. And I had to do a lot of that self-talk to remind myself, no, this is my life, this is my business, and this is how I get business. I get business by showing up as me, by putting content out there, by sharing my life, by over serving and putting out a lot of content and things for people. And so I'm going to keep doing me. And I had to remind myself. And so this is also my reminder to you that if you are in that space, or if you're in that moment of building something and people don't fully get it, or they make those comments, don't let that get to you. You might have that moment where it stings and you have to remind yourself why you're doing it and what the bigger picture is. Pave that way for where you're headed and what you're doing. So I want to say that this opportunity to be in this book sort of fell into my lap. But again, not fully, because I know it's the work that I've done and how I have positioned myself online and for this opportunity. but somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Definitely connect with me, follow me over there if you are on that platform. Someone reached out to me on LinkedIn after viewing my profile and my content and said, hey, I'm writing this book on peak performance. He's got a series on peak performance, and he was writing this one on leaders. And he said, I thought that you could be a good fit. Let's have a conversation. So we had this conversation, and the more that I talked to him and the more that I got information, there was just this like hell yes in my body. And again, I'm going to bring you back to, you need to start getting in tune with if it's a hell no or if it's a hell yes, listen to it. And it felt to me like, yes, this is an amazing opportunity, and trusting my gut. And it just felt like this great step. And, knowing I want to write my own book at some point, this was such a great opportunity and a step to take. And who was I and why would I say no, even if I was a little scared or unsure? And the other thing that I want to add in here is I only had like a 2-week, maybe 2-week turnaround time, because I was one of the last authors that he was bringing in for this book. And so I had a lot of other stuff. I know I had a speaking event happening around that time. I was creating some other things. And so I had a really quick turnaround time, but I said yes. And I decided I would figure it out because I didn't want to say no. It would have felt way worse to say no than to say yes and figure it out. And so when I said yes, then I was like, all right, I've got to get this thing written. So I took some time and I reflected on, what do I want to write about? I've got this amazing opportunity in front of me to talk about peak performance mindset tools for leaders, which is right up my alley. This is my jam. Like, there's so many things I wanted to say. How do I articulate it into a chapter? And in May of 2021, I had been a keynote speaker at a gala, and I spoke on Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. That was the title of the talk. And it was really all about how you can change the way that you look at things and that it can change everything for you. And that really jumped out at me. And I was like, you know what? I think that's it. I think that's the title of the chapter. So I got to writing and I stayed up until midnight. I'm still at heart that achiever, and there was a deadline and I was not going to miss that deadline, or I was not going to ask for an extension. So I stayed up until midnight the night that it was due, and I got it over to him. And now, many months later, we get to finally celebrate that excitement and that I trusted myself and the opportunity, even if I didn't know the how. And you might have something that you really want, or you might have an opportunity right now in front of you or fall into your lap, quote unquote, and you can question yourself and you could doubt yourself and you could worry about how you're going to make it work or if you're the right person for this, or you can say yes. You can say yes and then figure it out. You can trust that even if you don't have all of the answers right now, that you can figure it out. Because if it feels like, oh, hell yes, I want to do this, don't gyp yourself of the opportunity to see what you're capable of, to see what you can do when you just trust yourself and you say yes and you go all in and you do it. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have that much time, but I knew the why. I knew that it would set me up for some great opportunities. It would expand me. It would give me credibility. And it was going to be this great step. So I dove in. And that's literally what the whole chapter is about anyways. And what I talk about, it starts with you believing it and then choosing to do it and pursue it no matter what else gets in the way. And if there's something that you want to do, an opportunity calling your name right now, and you deep down know that you really want to, but you don't know how, I want to challenge you to think, what's the why? And if the why is there, and if the why is strong enough, the rest will be figured out. You will figure out the rest. So I want to share with you a few things from that chapter. And so Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life is the title, and it is a concept that has changed mine. And when I think of my own, shifting that I have done for myself and what's possible, I realize that when I shift my thoughts and what I think I'm capable of doing, then I can shift everything else in my life. And this does not mean things are easy, right? Like, as I mentioned, you've heard my story on a previous episode, and if you haven't, go check it out, because things have not been easy. And I've had ups and downs over the last few years, but I've changed my thinking around what it means to have a rough time or a hard time, and really seeing how it's happening for me instead of to me. And that changes my perspective, what I see, and then what action that I take. I either stay the victim to it, or I'm able to shift and make it mean something. And it really has opened up for me what is possible. And I talk about in the opening of this chapter about my experience going to the Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within event and doing this fire walk that I was adamant that I was not going to do going into the event. And I'm standing there in front of these hot coals at like 2 a.m. chanting cool moss, which is something you're supposed to do so that your mind gets taken away from the heat. And then I walk across these hot coals and it's over in an instant. But that instant changed everything for me and what it opened up for me, what was possible for humans and for myself. And I also share in the chapter a lot of reflective questions that you can ask yourself and that you can really dive into. And I really share tools as well around what can you do. I want this to be a chapter that's really actionable for you. What can you do to develop and activate your success mindset as a leader? So I want to share just a couple highlights with you of what I talk about. So it's really these 3 steps that I talk about when it comes to activating your success mindset as a leader. The first one is choose it. And I have this quote from Zig Ziglar: success occurs when your dreams are bigger than your excuses. Because there are so many excuses that could get in your way. But success occurs when your dreams are bigger than your excuses. And so the first step to developing a mindset dialed into success is to choose it. And this doesn't mean just hoping for it, wishing for it, not just looking to others that have it and comparing yourself. It's choosing it. It's choosing that you desire it and that you're going to go after it. And, if you look to all of the highly successful leaders in the world, they didn't have success just fall right into their laps. They didn't have this easy path to success. They had tenacity and they had conviction in their dreams and in their missions. And they chose their goals over and over, despite the ups and downs. And you are so capable of that too. It's right on the other side of the indecision. It's right on the other side of the excuses. And it's right on the other side of that comparison and self-doubt. That's what we dive into and choose it. The next step is learn it. And choosing it and knowing your why is the first step. And it's critical to helping you develop this mindset of a strong leader. However, it doesn't stop there. You have to know what could get in your way of you achieving that goal. And a lot of the times that's your own thoughts. And, we dive into this in an earlier episode around limiting beliefs. So definitely check that out. I talk about you being your catalyst for change and talk about getting out of those boxes of limiting beliefs. So check those out if you haven't. But it's really about really getting clear and tuning in to what thoughts do you have about yourself, about the situation, reframing those thoughts. So I give you some great questions around how can you reframe those thoughts and how can you adopt more empowered beliefs that's going to help you to get what you want. And then the third step is live it. And this is the time where I have some tough love, right? You can read all the books on mindset. You can read this book. You can listen to the podcast and you can attend the conferences. But unless you actually learn how to go from insight to action and start implementing these things into your daily habits, then it's all just information. Without consistent action, you might try some of these mindset tips and you might start to implement some of these things, but they're quickly going to fall off into your old habits. And, I won't dive into all the science behind habits right now. I do think it's fascinating though, but just know that there is a lot of science around it and you can dig into that. But on the most basic level, you have formed these habits in the way that you respond to things in your life. And when something stressful happens, you have this habit of responding in a certain way. And that has created neural connections in your brain that are defaulting to this reaction. What we can learn to do is to develop our mental fitness. This is research from Positive Intelligence. I've mentioned this. We can develop our mental fitness and create new neural connections and rewire your brain. It is fascinating. We'll definitely dive into more mental fitness in the future, but we can rewire our brains to create new habits. And being able to really develop the mindset of a successful leader requires living into all of these tips that you're learning about, but also putting them into practice in your everyday and creating new habits. So those are some of the highlights. You're definitely going to have to go check out that chapter. And I will say that this is actually also a keynote of mine. This Activate Your Success Mindset, I deliver this as a keynote. It's one of my most requested keynotes. And I deliver it at conferences and events and organizations on how can you do these things to really activate your success mindset and achieve that peak performance, achieve all of those things that you want. So I'm going to end with one of my absolute favorite quotes that I use a lot by Wayne Dyer. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I want to leave you with that. Go check out the book, share with me, start implementing these tools. Be sure to share and tag me. What things are you implementing and how are they helping you in your life? All right, see you next time.